As we're preparing to transition to our speaker, maybe we'll take, and we'll come back to this again,
Whatever you feel like.
so we can have more community interaction around this and get some of the questions answered. Maybe we'll take very quickly 2 things that you see progress, and then 2 areas where you may see gaps that are yet to be closed. So we won't get everybody right now, but let's just take a moment and get some feedback. 1 area, 2 areas where you see progress, whether from the presentation or the data. Anyone want to volunteer at your table? Progress. Let's get everybody's attention. All right. Oh, it's Garrett. Okay. All right. Progress. Any areas of progress that you just want to confirm or recognize based on the presentation so far? Let's not be shy. Okay. Thank you. You don't have to go. I'll come to you. I'll be.
It was encouraging to see the increase in science scores in elementary school, because we know that that leads to problem solving and critical thinking, and that will help them as they progress in high school.
Thank you, Nancy. So one other area of progress that you want to note, that was maybe talked about at your table. Anyone else as far as progress areas?
Early childhood, and something that wasn't mentioned in the presentation are the career academies.
Good. So career academies, especially Benson, being approved by the board this year for business, entrepreneurship, health, and construction design. Okay, just very quickly, just want to capture 2 gaps. One, a couple of gaps that you recognize that still need to be closed.
I noticed that there began to, as the grades increase, the numbers in terms of efficiencies begin to go down.
So again, reading and math as you go from elementary to middle school to high school, that the gap increases or the performance decreases. Anybody else? One other gap you want to recognize that we want to make sure that we hit on?
It's not identified as a gap, and there's no data, as I understand, for the mobility column or blank. But I just wanted to acknowledge that when we get to the mobility, there is a program that we have that helps with mobility. It decreases, or it helps families to enroll when they're going from place to place, and so their families, the students, aren't maintaining that connection so they can be successful academically. And so we're working with the families for 6 months to help change that so that their students can be successful in the classroom.
Specifically addressing mobility, I do want to mention that on the mobility piece, we have it for the last 3 years, and I believe the state does not release mobility until the end of November. Okay. So that will be filled in at the end of November as far as mobility for this year. We'll have a trend line for the last few years by school. So thanks.
It's great to have a packed room, but I think that there need to be some strategies that they use in the packed room so that children do not end up there again. So remove them so that the classroom can be successful in learning, but there's got to be someone in that packed room who is going to work with them to not only infuse them, but to give them some strategies that they can use so they can return to the classroom and be successful.
Okay. Thank you. All right, let's do this very quickly. Bring it down a little bit. Thanks. We want to capture all of the comments, and for us as a team, as we're hearing from our keynote speaker, we'll look at and compile and bring back some common themes, and then we'll deal with those questions with the teams that we have here with OPS and a few others. So we want to move to our keynote speaker. If I can get some assistance from the network folks, let's get the sheets. If you have filled them out, let's make sure we get those collected right now so we can quickly go through those and then we'll compile everything. So if you can give it to one person at the table, we'll come around and get those collected. All right. And we will come back to the community conversation around this. As we have over the last 9 years been working with the school district and with many of the community-based organizations in the room, we've developed what we call the Cradle to Career strategy. That group meets every month with the superintendent or members of his team, to see how that we can continue to make progress in North Omaha specifically. One of the areas that we have focused and we're focusing even more on right now is, and it came out very strong in the needs assessment strategic plan that was identified by OPS, is family and community engagement at every level. And we are very honored in that we have, through our partnership with Scholastic and others, we have one of the foremost thought leaders across the country, actually on an international basis, that's here with us today. He is the former president of the PTA organization. He is the chairman of the Family Engagement Alliance, National Family Engagement Alliance. He has done work and continues to do work with the Department of Education, Microsoft. He's done work with the White House. Again, one of the top leaders in the country around not only family and community engagement, but we've asked him to spend some time with that. I believe we have a short video, Sharif. We have a video. Why don't we watch the video and then we'll do a more formal introduction and welcome Byron Garrett to Omaha.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Speaker for Life, ladies and gentlemen, Byron B. Garrett. Author of the highly popular book, ABCs of Life, Byron has released his first illustrated children's book, There's Greatness on the Inside. He's worked with Fantasia, Tashina Arnold, C.C. Peniston, President Clinton, and Charlie Murphy. He's served on boards, including My Go, Boys and Girls Harbor, and the Guyana Foundation. Byron has been featured in publications such as The Wall Street Journal, Ebony, USA Today, and Jet Magazine. He's the education blogger for the Huffington Post. He's even made appearances on MSNBC, Fox, Dr. Phil, and The Today Show. As a national leader on education, he's served as an advisor to elected officials, federal agencies, the Office of the First Lady, and the White House. He's produced major events like Education Nation for NBC News, and is now one of America's leading education advocates as chairman of the National Family Engagement Alliance. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most compelling voices of our time, please welcome Speaker for Life, Mr. Byron B. Garrett.
Good morning. You utilize your outdoor voice. Good morning. I would almost say to get up and name it. You know you want to do it, but I ain't gonna ask you. I'm just saying. Some of y'all like, I don't even know what a whip or a nay is. If you don't know either of those terms, you are disconnected from the population that you serve. I'm just saying. So if you see the kids do this and you think they're trying to drive a car, they think they are until they do that. I'm just saying. Well, I'm certainly excited, enthused, encouraged, and elated to be with you today. It's good to see each and every one of your smiling faces, parcels and spaces, dentures and braces on a day like today. Y'all need to lighten up. Y'all got that data report and y'all like, oh my God, we're in crisis. Well, I hope it's not new news to you. The data that you read should not be new to you. This is your community. I don't live here. I will get on a plane and go back to the Washington, D.C. area later on today, and I realize, recognize, and understand that data, when it comes to folks, it should matter to all of us, not just some of us. And as I was sitting at my table and we were discussing, I said, well, I don't really want to weigh in on what questions you should ask about the data you read. I have my own thoughts. But there are some things that you need to ask about the data that you saw. And there's some great conversations that should take place, even with what the superintendent presented. One of the things that stuck out to me, I was sharing with my colleague who's a noted researcher. I said I was surprised to see that the number of Hispanic students that take the AP exams are high, or AP courses are higher than the number of African American students. I want you to think about what that means. You should also know that the national data would show that for the first time in history, the African-American male subgroup is the lowest performing subgroup on standardized testing across the country, which tells me I have no issues, trust me, with Hispanic families, Asian families, any other family that chooses to be successful. But what that data tells me is that there is a sense of urgency and desire for some that does not exist for others. Does that make sense? Yeah. Which means we collectively, and you specifically in your respective communities, have to think differently about how you prioritize education. The challenge is with this conversation, is that we end up preaching to the choir because you're out here on a Saturday. So you get it. The question would be, where's your neighbor, your cousin, your nephew, your son, your auntie, your big mama? Where are they on a day like today? But for the time we have, I want to talk about this particular message of how we encourage and inspire young people to achieve greatness. I've spent the last day and a half in Omaha. We went to 3 schools yesterday. On a previous visit, I think I went to 4 others, and I was looking at the list. I believe the majority of those schools are actually situated within North Omaha, with the exception of 2 that I visited on a previous time. So it's good to be here, and it's good to see the progress. But it's also good to recognize, realize, and understand that without struggle, there is no progress. And power concedes nothing without a demand. If you recall the great words of Frederick Douglass, so you've got to be thinking differently about the work we do. I have to start with this image as we frame this context for family engagement. This is my family. I'm the cutest kid in the picture. I'm the little boy with the big ears in the middle, and I'm okay with that. It's okay. I have 2 older brothers. As you see, I call them dumb and dumber because they did all the things you should not do to a young person. I've spent time in a washing machine and a dryer and a dishwasher and a sink. Just saying. But one would make the assumption wrongly that because we grew up in the same household with the same set of parents that we would have the same outcomes. We do not. We are drastically different. That is why I am the favorite child. My parents love me more than they love my 2 brothers. And if they were standing here today, they would agree with me because for their 50th anniversary, they just came back from Las Vegas. My middle brother didn't even remember that their anniversary had passed. I'm like, how can you not remember? Yeah, they're your parents. 50 years is a long time. And then I got mad because I was flying in to surprise him, and my dad is so committed to his United Methodist Church that he decided he would end his trip early to go back home. So we passed each other at the airport, and I'm trying to surprise him. Like, where are you going? Oh, we're going home. Like, are you serious? Out of all the things you could be doing today, 50 years, and you choose to take my mama home early. I didn't say that. There are many things you can think, but it should never leave your lips. That's why I still have all my teeth. I'm just saying. But I want to pose a series of questions to you, and this is loosely lifted from my good friend, Dr. Karen Maxworth. And I've shifted a couple questions that she asked. I want to put it in the student context for you today. I want you to think about these statements. Do you believe that all students have dreams? That all students have and know what's best for them? That all students want what's best for them? And more importantly, that all students have the capacity? I want you to think about that, because when we come to this particular work, the challenge is, what is it that we actually believe is possible for the young people that we serve? And it's easy to sit in meetings and shift papers and pass documents and even pass policy at a board meeting. That's easy. But the fundamental question around getting the work right is, what do you actually believe, and where and how does that belief show up? I'll tell you what I believe. I looked at this from my new book. I believe that if the mind can conceive it and the heart can believe it, then the hands can achieve it, because it all begins in the mind. And the data would also tell me that it begins in early education, that it doesn't begin in kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, or 3rd grade. It begins at 0, and most data would even support now it begins prior to birth. So if as a community we haven't even begun to tackle that question, it tells me that you don't really believe that you're on the right road to success. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I was looking at the report, and one of the gentlemen at the table said, well, it starts at kindergarten. What about the stuff before that? And what about between kindergarten and 3rd grade? Are those important? I'm like, of course they're important. And I'm sure people have that data. It's just not reported on this particular sheet you're looking at. But we've got to think fundamentally around what is it that we believe for the time we have. So I mentioned I've been on the road, and I spend 70% of my time across the country in schools and in classrooms. Here's a snapshot of the last 2 weeks. I didn't pull photos from the visits yesterday, but so I've been in elementary schools and sitting down with students, and I will tell you publicly that prior to coming to Omaha 2 years ago, spending time, even though I'm a former K school principal, spending time with kindergarten through 1st grade students, that was like my least favorite audience. They like to touch you, they like to grab you, they like to climb as if you are a tree or a gymnasium piece of equipment. They like to do all of those things, and they have no context where I just sneezed, I just went to the bathroom, I don't care that it's a marker and I draw it right on your brand new shirt or coat. It makes no difference to them. They have no concept. But over the last couple of weeks, as I've been out with the book, I've spent time in a class almost every single day that I was on the road. And it's fascinating when you sit down and cross your legs and actually open your mouth to read to a group of students sitting in elementary school. And I'll tell you why it's fascinating, because it shifts your perspective and it shifts your orientation about what's really important. Because when you're sitting there with 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 of them, you don't have the luxury of escaping and saying, I've got to check a message. Because a 3-year-old has no context for a text message, and they don't know who you're trying to check it. Why do you need to check in with my boss? I don't know who your boss is, but I want to go back to the elephant. And I would encourage you to do me a favor. If you have not spent time in a classroom in a recent time, you should volunteer. And go spend time and sit down and open up the pages of a book and read to a child. If you want to have a significant impact, begin there. I was so excited to see that the United Methodist Church was volunteering at one of the schools we went to actually walk in and see a member of clergy as one of the first people that you see when you walk in the door. One of the first. And then to know the folks that are coming, hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Oh, hey, Patrick, good to see you too. I know you think those things are not important, but it is, because it's a collective and shared responsibility, and more importantly, the kids that you serve, they see it and know it. They also know what they don't see. You only come when it's an issue. We've had a crisis, so now you want to show up. They don't say it because they're smart enough in their own circle. They'll have that conversation, send a text message. Isn't that the lady who only comes when we have something that's really important so she can get a photograph? Well, I don't want to take a picture with you. I'm sorry, kids in Omaha don't do that. No, they do. They keep it real. But I want you to think for a moment, because society has changed. I was talking about this at a dinner last night. These were my favorite cartoons. Tom and Jerry. I love Scooby-Doo. I still don't understand why they couldn't change clothes. I think Hanna-Barbera was just cheap when they did the cartoon. Because, that wouldn't work in this day and age. Dora the Explorer got to have 20 different costumes. I'm just saying, the backpack may be the same, but she got to change outfits. But even as I was looking at The Simpsons, and so one of the things that reminded me was, we used to think, anybody watch Roadrunner? Anybody know? You didn't watch every single afternoon, like at 3:15, waiting to see if the anvil was going to drop and who's going to fall off the cliff. We did it every single day, thinking there would be a different outcome, knowing there wouldn't be. And my mom was like, why are you watching? You know he's going to get hit. I'm like, I know, but I'm hoping. I have hope and belief that something will be different today. But that's where society was. But I will tell you that it changed, because then we got stuff like South Park and Stewie and American Dad. Again, you don't know these images, you are disconnected, and these are cartoons. And I even struggle. Can I show Stewie standing in the mirror shaving? Is that appropriate? Yeah, it is, because your 7-year-old can watch it on TV in prime time. So I don't struggle with whether I can show that with adults on a Saturday morning, but what I need you to see is the times have visually changed. And the young people that we serve, their perspective around what they see has changed. The families that they belong to are no longer the families that you used to think of. They're not two parents sitting in a house and one working a good job and one saying, I'm going to stay at home while the kids get education. No, it's I'm working 3 jobs and I may be the only person and I'm doing all I can do, and I'm already spent and tired by the time I get the text message or the call from the school saying, can you show up for a meeting? Well, how about you meet me online? Can you send me a FaceTime request? And I get educators who will say, well, I don't want to do FaceTime. I'm not giving you my Apple ID information. My question is really simple. Do you want to be effective in your engagement and reach people or not? If you do, then you need to meet them where they are, physically or virtually. I can do a poll today and post a question on Facebook right now and get a quicker response than I could if I asked people to show up at a meeting. Just saying. The notion of saying I always have to physically be there is not the same. It's not what it used to be. And then you force people to figure out, well, should I send paper home or should I send electronic home? Do both. It's not an either or. Family engagement is not either or. It is yes and. The children they have do not come with instructions, neither do the parents that they belong to. I wish when my nephews who moved in 3rd and 4th grade, I wish my mom had said, here are the instructions for Brandon and Dwayne, and if you do the following 20 things, it'll be perfect. We had crisis on the very first day. And Dwayne decided to try to slam the door in my face and say, I need a moment of privacy, do not enter. Are you crazy? I had to take a minute, not for him, but for me. I had to put myself in time out. Let me woosah. I decided, that's a simple remedy. I'm going to go get my screwdriver. We're going to stop this today. I did what any good caring adult should do. I took the hinges off the door mark, took the door down and laid it on the ground and said, let me be clear. You own nothing in here, including the sheets that you will sleep on tonight. Do not get it twisted because you thought we were friends and buddies. We're not. You are a child and I'm an adult. That is not the same. Y'all trying to be friends and buddies. Well, my daughter's my BFF. No, she's not. You are 30 or 28 and she is 6 and 7. She cannot process your adult issues with her child mind. Stop asking her to do so. Do not sit down with your son and explain your boyfriend troubles because he cannot resolve them. He is not your boyfriend. He is your son. There is a distinct difference between the two. The family dynamic has shifted from what it used to be to what it is. I'm just saying. You see, there is a sense of urgency to this work. This is an image from India that I like to show. This is a public school. I want to be very clear. I know to you it doesn't look like a school in Omaha, but this is a public school with no windows that looks like it's dilapidated and should be deserted, but it is not. And what you see in this image are families who have scaled the side of a building to help their students pass an exam. And let me be clear on this notion about testing. In India, as it would be in many countries, they take an end-of-school exam. It's not standardized testing, it's not the SAT or the ACT, it is at the age of 15 or 16, we are making a determination as a government whether we will still continue to invest in your education. If you do not pass, you go to work. So when you think about this as a crisis, well, I think we have too many tests, well, I think the teacher requires too much, this is your child's competition. Now, when you see a family that will scale a building to help a child cheat to pass an exam so they can simply stay in school and get what you get for free. And we wonder why folks are saying, well, you know, I'll worry about it next year. Oh, he's not going to get promoted. That's okay. Well, let me get some additional assistance for him. We have a whole lot of things that we could be doing. And I'm not endorsing, let me clarify, I'm not endorsing the notion of cheating. But I'm endorsing the severity of crisis that they see themselves in, that they're willing to do whatever is necessary to ensure that their child gets an education. And we got folks that walk up and down the street. I'm sorry we're late again. We just couldn't get up, the alarm didn't go off. You even have a clock. These folks set their mind to say, I need to wake up just so you can get there. You know there's some schools in the world that whoever gets there first, that's who gets a seat and who gets to learn today. I was in Nigeria in 1998, and we were walking out to a village, and the school was designed to host and house 100 students. And there were 300 to 400 students from around the area that would show up every single day, and they said, I'm sorry, it's first come, first served. These kids truly got up and walked miles to simply sit in a classroom that had no door, no Promethean board, no technology. They used tar to create what you would consider to be a chalkboard. And if you walked into a school, oh, my child's not going to school there. And then to see a student from that very same village school come and go to Harvard, and we're complaining whether or not we want to go to community college. I'm just saying, we've got to think differently about what's at stake in this day and age. This issue of motivation for young people is critical, and for their families. There's a report that shows that upwards of 40% of our students are chronically disengaged in school. Comes from the Center for Education Policy out of D.C. at George Washington. I want you to know these top bullets: raising academic standards and standardized exams do not boost student achievement. Let me I'll ask you this question. How many folks work? How many of y'all work? You get compensated for what you do. When your boss says, we have 3 more things that we're going to measure you against for your performance, does that just automatically say, oh, I'm motivated to do better? Anybody? No? I'm sure when the board tells the superintendent, well, we got 7 more things we want to add to your contract to see if we want to keep you, I'm sure he's like, oh, I'm so excited. No. And you think a 16-year-old that's been playing a gaming system all night can rationalize that notion? No. So they're not motivated or encouraged just because we say that testing is more important. It actually has an adverse effect, according to research. It unintentionally discourages student success. But what we do know is that motivated students have higher achievement. They show better mastery, meaning they actually understand the concept. Greater satisfaction for schools and lower dropout rates. We've got to think differently about the work. I was listening to the presentation earlier, and this is a good data set. That 95% of students are motivated in kindergarten, and by the time they get to 12th grade, it's 45%, and there's a dip in 9th grade. That should be no surprise. Transitioning from middle school to high school is so difficult. There are other variables. How many students are repeating in 9th grade? How many transfer? I mean, all of those pieces. But the data does not lie. That I go from being really excited in kindergarten to learn and the world is wide open to I don't even want to show up. I don't want to be in her class. Everybody knows she's not the best teacher. Everybody knows, but they got her teaching anyway. Oh, that don't sound real? I can walk into any school in your city or any city in this country and ask a handful of students at lunch who's the best teacher and who's the worst teacher. They don't need a performance plan or assessment to tell me, and almost within certainty, they all will give the same answer. And then if I ask the adults, off the record in a private conversation at the grocery store when I see you next to the fruits and vegetables, if you have them in your community, you would give the same response. And we act like it's rocket science over who's a good teacher and who's not. That's why folks say, oh no, you need an easier take Miss Johnson. Yeah, put him in Miss Johnson's class. Oh, you really need to make sure he wants to do English. Oh, then he needs to be in Miss Martin's class with Miss Parker. She's gonna make sure he gets this. We know that information. It didn't take a rubric or an assessment. We knew the data. And students know it too. Don't think they don't. This is an image from the book. It's probably my favorite. There will be those who say that you can't, never will, or that you won't. Do not listen to them because they are the ones who don't. See, our young people and the families that they come from need to know two things. That there are dream makers and dream busters. This is an example of a dream buster. Young folks will call it AKA hateration, holleration, whichever term you want to pick. Those folks who have issues with everybody else in the world. They can also be folks like my 7th grade honors English teacher who said, Mr. Garrett, I understand that you're a new student and this is your first day, but you're in the wrong location because I am convinced you are not to be in my class. Please go back to the office and figure out where it is you should be. And I'm looking, thinking, because I know who I belong to. I belong to Franklin and Yvonne Garrett. I'm looking. She talking to me. I didn't say it. Mrs. Deaton, I'm so sorry, perhaps I'm in the wrong location. But the office sent me here. Is it possible, since it's just down the hall and the bell is already rung, perhaps I don't know exactly where to go and I don't want to get lost. Could you possibly check and clarify where it is I should be? And the entire class gasped. She was like, I'll be right back. They said, oh my God, you're gonna die. Nobody speaks to Mrs. Deaton. It's the first day. You should have sat down and just been quiet and act like we did not exist, but you're just not here. I'm like, no. We'll see in a couple minutes when Miss Deaton comes back. And so I heard her heels click down that hall, and I heard them come back, but I heard a different step. I also heard something that was a little heavier, had a little more bass on that old wood floor. It was Mr. Robinson, our school principal. He did what any good educator and administrator should do, which does not happen in education enough. He walked into the classroom and said, good morning, class. Mrs. Deaton has something she would like to say to you. Mr. Garrett was so excited today. It's your first day class. If you met Mr. Garrett, he's your new student. He's going to be in your class. But Mrs. Deaton has the more important information she's going to share. You all should be excited. And then she uttered the following words. Good morning, Mr. Garrett. We're so excited you're here. Please take your seat. Mr. Robinson said, oh no, that's not sufficient because I'm not sure that's how the conversation was prior to. You really want to tell the class the good news because I want them to know it. And he was so excited. She said, class, Mr. Garrett is our new honors English student. You know we take the California Achievement Test. That'll tell you how old I am. Yeah, for those who remember that. California Achievement Test. He's like in the top 1% of the state, so he actually automatically brings our class score up even though we're already in honors. Mr. Garrett, we're so excited that you're going to be here. I said, thank you so much, Mrs. Deaton. I almost wanted to curtsy or something. I was just like, you know, that's the day you sit there and you're like, I'm going to pop my collar because I did that, but I ain't saying anything. I sat down as I should. And I spent the entire year trying to prove to her and the class that I deserved to be there, even though I knew I did. But it's only because I had had Franklin and Yvonne Garrett in this year, and Miss Connie Martin, my 4th grade teacher, and Miss Barbara Twitty, my 6th grade teacher, who told me I have the capacity to do anything regardless of who's standing in front of me. If the mind can conceive it and the heart can believe it, then the hands can achieve it. We've got to create a different spirit of ethic within our young people and the folks that serve and support them. There are some people in education who should just quit. Amen. Now, this ain't church. But I'm sure the district will love it if you want to pass around an offering plate and take up a collection for the library. I'm sure. Just saying. my mom would be like, it is amen. And sometimes you gotta say ouch. You know how you get in somebody's home, you pull up in the driveway, ain't no lights on, you know you're home. You're like, yep, it's not a good place to be. But this is the opposite of that image. That your family, your teachers, your neighbors, and friends, they all believe you will succeed and know that you can, on the opposite end of the spectrum. But I have a question for you. If I am a parent, and this has been my experience in my school or in my community, and I now have children who are in a school in a community, it becomes really difficult for me to entrust that this is who you say you want to be because you showed me differently. My mentor, one of my mentors in life, Dr. Maya Angelou, you probably already know the quote, you can finish it before I even start. When people show you who they are, believe them. So even for some of our families, it's difficult when we talk about meaningful engagement and you're trying to schedule time and you really want to be a partner. If I've had a bad experience with you, it's hard for me to believe that all of a sudden you have an epiphany that you now want to be an engaged partner. Does that make sense? If it does at some point in time in your child's life, it'll make dollars. The other question I like to ask folks are you relevant? And that's for all adults sitting in the room, for the young people you say you want to serve. You know these images, I hope. If you don't know being Mary Jane, you should, homegirl, you should know exactly who Mary Jane Paul is in the show. It gives a great image of an African-American female who's not a video vixen, who's actually a TV news anchor for a primetime show. It's a different image that your young folks should probably see. And some of the scenes they should be showing, I'm just saying. However, the content and context of the show is on point. And you should know the have and have-nots. Not because of what you see on television, but because you can tell the students sitting in front of you that a single TV show saved an entire network for who used to be the richest African-American female in these United States of America. I'm just saying. Now, I do watch the have and have-nots for the storyline. It's a little something. It's the slowest show on television, though. Jim. Jim. I'm like, can we come on? It's too slow. Tyler knows it. They don't care because people still tune in. I'm still going, what? That's just me. And if you don't know The Modern Family, you should. Long-standing show. Predicted what was going to happen in the United States from a Supreme Court perspective, was already showcasing families of all different sizes, shapes, and types. Whether you agree or disagree, the reality is it is the law of the land. And we, in this day and age, have to adjust to the families that we serve that also come from that same perspective, or even to the top right. My favorite show on TV right now, Empire. I was in a school, and I'm so tired of kids telling me that they're going to be Lucius Lyons. I'm just like, you're not Lucius. He is a fictional character. Stop saying it. But then I remember growing up, I wanted to be Cliff the Big Red Dog. So I mean, at least you have a career option. I mean, I'm just saying. But this is where our folks are. This is what they see. This is what I'm bombarded with on a regular basis. Whether you think Hakeem and Jamal, who looks better, who sings best, some people would say neither can. But it's the #1 show in the world on television. And they told Cookie and Lucius, better known as Taraji and Terrence, we're not even sure that we want to go beyond 9 episodes. Because we don't think society is ready to tune into a primetime show with an all-African-American cast. Can you imagine the person who said that? It's like I was telling the students the other day, imagine being the publisher who told J.K. Rowling her book was too big like the Bible and we don't think children around the world will want to read it. Well, about $2.8 billion later, I think somebody got fired. This particular slide, some of you are going to say, I don't even know who these people are. You see, part of visualization and success in life are showing people, like you have leaders in this community, whether it's on the school board or the city council, or even in the district, faith leaders. You have leaders that young people need to see folks that look like them. But I also like to say that for every P. Diddy, there is an Oprah Winfrey. For every single person like a Master P, or Chingy, or Pharrell, I would like to talk about Kenneth Chanel. And then folks will say, well, I don't know who Kenneth Chanel is. Well, he's the brother that used to run American Express and help design and invent and create the black card that all the people that you hear sing say that they have or want to have. But we do know that if they're not spending $20,000 a month, that they can pay the bill every month, they don't have one. Just saying. Some of y'all are like, I didn't know a black man was at American Express. He wasn't just an American Express, he was chairman, CEO, and president. At one point in time, he held all three corporate titles. And then he just decided I would be chairman, and now he decided I'll just be chairman emeritus. Meaning you will still pay me because of my long-standing support, even though I don't have to come show up every single day. I'm just saying, there are examples that exist. Anybody heard of a little company called Target? You do know that an African-American female sits on the executive committee. Her name is Rachel Ward. She's over in the lower right-hand corner. There are people that have those roles, but our folks have got to see what they look like. You know who Pit Bull is, don't you? Some of y'all are like, I have no idea. You should. He created a multimedia empire. Some folks think he actually has more money than P. Diddy, a.k.a. Sean Connery. But you may not know who he is, but I guarantee you the kids that you see on a daily basis, they do. It's a whole host of folks like that. Like the young man that's seated in front of all the hats on the wall, who made his first million at the age of 16 because he decided his father had an auto parts store where they repaired stuff. He would then figure out, how do I swoop up and pimp rides, a.k.a. cars. And at the age of 16, ended up outfitting and equipping an entire show truly called Pimp My Ride. And now he's in a whole host of other businesses. He didn't have to wait till he got 24. At 16. When you sit there and wonder for your kids, I don't know that, we just don't have the same potential. No, you do. You have more millionaires per capita in this city than any other city in the country. I want to move here just hoping I'll touch the hem of somebody else's garment. I'm just saying. I know that was an inappropriate reference. I'll be honest. I say all that to say, this whole notion of the work that we do and the families that we want to serve, it's not easy. It's really hard. But you know what's really difficult? Being poor and figuring out that I only have 75 cents, but I've got $1.25 worth of bills, and figuring out how do I prioritize where my pennies and dimes. That's exhausting. So when you sit here, oh my gosh, I just don't want to go to the meeting today. What I say isn't really going to matter. We talk about the same thing every week. Then flip the script and go to the meeting and say, let's tear the agenda up and start over. Let's stop doing the same thing. I believe it was Albert Einstein who said insanity is defined as doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different outcome. How many times do you show up every single day to the same place, every single week, every single month, having the same conversation, and you just keep going? And nothing has changed. You have to decide to make a seismic shift in the work that you do. People use terms like transformation. I'm like, you can pick any term, call it what you want to. What I do know is that our children cannot wait, and I'll give you one simple example. When President Obama was president-elect, I got asked some questions. I was sitting in this meeting. I said, Mr. Garrett, you're at the National PTA. We're so excited you're there. I want to know what you think. And I said, Mr. President-elect, people generally don't ask me to say anything like that in public because, I'm unfiltered. So I think we would be better served with our time to ask somebody else. And I'll be glad to send your staff a note and they can assemble my comments because I've already done that, and apparently no one's gotten to me because this is where we are. I didn't say the last one. But there are many things you can think, but it should never leave your lips. He said, no, I really want to know your perspective. I said, well, first thing I need you to do is stop telling people to turn the TV off. That's your family engagement strategy. You told people, turn the TV off. I said, let me tell you what's wrong with that one point, and that'll illustrate why we should talk further, not in this context. He said, okay, well, what's wrong with that one statement? I think people should turn the TV off. Don't you agree? I said, I would agree if the folks that you're talking about actually have television. That's the first thing, because you made an assumption that I have a TV and that there's something on it. That's the first thing. The second assumption you made is that I'm actually home when Johnny turned the TV off. And the third you made is that I knew what to do when the TV got turned on. Because you didn't tell me what to do. You just said turn it off. And he stopped and said, well, when Michelle and I said, I completely understand. Because when Franklin and Yvonne would turn the TV off, they would say, grab an encyclopedia, Byron, flip through the middle, whatever word you come on, give me a 2-page book report, and we're going to talk about it in 30 minutes. That's because they were home when we did that. And they knew and had access to a set of encyclopedias to have that conversation and give me that direction. In this day and age, my nephews who live with me, I don't have a set of encyclopedias that I can point to for Brandon and Dwayne. And when they get home, they have a key, they unlock the door, they disarm the alarm code, and they fix a snack till I get home, and that may be 7 or 8 p.m. Well, that's kind of like a latchkey. You can call it that if you want to. They don't go anywhere. They do exactly what they're asked to do because I've given them guidance and instruction. Because I knew to do that. But we can't make the assumption in meaningful engagement that you know exactly what to do, nor can you claim to be the expert because you have a degree or credential. I believe it was Dr. King who said, in this day and age in life, that anybody and everybody can serve. And he said it does not matter if you have a college degree or if you know Einstein's theory of relativity, but you need to have a heart full of grace and a soul full of love, because we all can choose to serve. So for our young people today and our families, this work that you're doing as you gather every single month and you connect in between time and in the meantime is critical. We have to remember that. Hold at the forefront of your mind the outcome and the change that you want to see and steadily work towards that. In a divided house, everything will fall. No roof, no structure can ever stand. And our young people see that every single day. I'll leave you with this final thought. I was in Columbia, South Carolina this past week, visiting after the Spring Valley incident, the little girl that got flipped over in the desk. And I wrote a blog about it right afterwards, and all these folks said, well, you know, you finished high school in South Carolina, you should come down, I want you to see what's happening, I want you to talk to the folks. So I went and I talked to the students, family members, community leaders, everybody. And everybody had their own perspective. And as I was leaving, my mother said, well, what did you learn, or what bothered you most? I said, Mom, what bothered me most was when I watched the video and I saw a class full of students sitting motionless as if they'd either seen this before or their fear or what may happen to them should they move. So there was no expression. And there's something about the human condition and the human spirit. When I see things that look familiar and I recognize what it is, I choose to sit here expressionless and motionless. I'm not even moved by the action of what I see in the video. I said, that actually troubles me more. I know she's all right. So, but I was more troubled by that than the actual action of her being flipped over in the desk and drug across the classroom, because that tells me her life will be scarred forever, but the students sitting in those chairs is equally scarred and damaged because they actually think it's a norm, that it's the reality of how life should be. And so I wrote these words for my nephews from my book, The ABCs of Life. There's some copies on the table. Hopefully you were fortunate to get one, but it goes this way. Take the A to accept the challenge. Take the B to believe in the cause. Take the C and know that the choices you make, not the chance you take, determine success in life. Take the D to define yourself and develop your own goals and objectives. Take the E to expect failure, but also expect success. Take the F to fight on, be faithful, and finish what you started. Take the G to gravitate towards positive, successful people for the right reason at the right time. Take the H to harness everything within you, not to be rich or famous or wealthy, but just to be happy. Happiness is something money can't afford if it was. Be traded on New York Stock Exchange and would all be down in the dumps on any given day. Take the I to initiate the process, to get involved, to learn how to, and every now and then, just let it all hang out. Take the J and know that jealousy gets you nowhere, but you must always justify your actions. That's why you take the K to keep on and kick those negative habits and negative folks to the curb. Take the L to learn how to learn, so you still learn something new every day. And if it is important, you can think the great M for more money, more money, more money. But remember the great song that says, the more money you have, the more problems you will see. That's why you measure your worth based upon what's inside your head and heart, instead of what's parked in your driveway or hanging in your closet. Take the N to never, never, never say never. So take the O to organize your life and order your steps. And take the P and do me a personal favor. Put first things first, but always practice whatever it is you preach. Take the Q and quit quitting. Quitters never win and winners never quit. Or take the R to respect people based upon their skills, talents, and achievements, and respect them on nothing else. Take the S and stay strong to your values and beliefs and don't sell out to your friends or even your family. Take the T and travel long road to equality, because we still have a long ways to go. Take the U to utilize your network for someone else to do well in life. But you take the V to visualize it. Only when you see it can you be it. Take the W and work till all your work is done. And my personal favorite letter of the alphabet is the letter X, which stands for X-ray, your own life for improvement. Not mine, your in-laws, your neighbors, Pookie, Ray Ray, Boo Boo, Mama, and Hector, Alberto. X-ray, your own life for improvement. In other words, you've got 24 hours in a day. 12 hours to mind your business, 12 hours to take care of your business, leaves you zero time for anybody else's business. X-ray your whole life for improvement. Take the Y and yield to opportunity, and above all things, take the Z to zealously strive to achieve. This is my closing image. My oldest nephew, Brandon, who moved in and now stands 6'9" and lives in Spain, graduated from college a couple of years ago. But more importantly, my youngest nephew on the far left, that's Dwayne. He's a student at Hampton. The data would have told me, because their father's been incarcerated now 18 years and their mother made just at the poverty line, that the likelihood of them being successful or effective would not happen in their lifetime. My grandmother, in 1991, my sophomore year in college, still had a fully functioning outhouse in Gibsonville, North Carolina. Dwayne is standing in front of a Christmas tree at the White House 2 years ago, so I know for a fact that you can go from the outhouse to the White House. Success does not happen overnight.